Kevin Dougherty is known as StingersSwarm, and he is also known as the powerloop king. And today we talk about how he innovated to become the powerloop king and what that was like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have the man that could powerloop the United States on with us tonight. He is, a matter of fact, wearing the powerloop shirt, which if you go to any of his videos, you can go to the description and check out that exact shirt on his account. So just a little plug for him. But I have Kevin Dougherty.
I really didn't wear it to plug. This is like, I need to do laundry, and this was just what was on top of the pile.
Yes, but it's an awesome shirt, man.
I love it.
I can see myself wearing that all the time. So ladies and gentlemen, the man that needs no introduction, Kevin Dougherty, a.k.a. StingersSwarm, a.k.a. the Powerloop King. How are you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic. How are you tonight?
I'm doing all right, man. It's been an interesting day, but I'm glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
So, I always typically start off with asking people, what's your origin story? How did you get into quads? What time frame did you get into quads? And take it as long or as short as you want, but I'd love to hear how you ended up finding your way into this sport that we have.
So I've basically, the way that I got into FPV was I had a friend that was worked at the same airline as me, and he was getting interested in like RC planes and was watching a bunch of flight test videos. And his fiance at the time asked me to go, and because she's like, oh, you can figure this out. Go watch some of these videos, figure out what I should buy him for Christmas or whatever. And you just tell me what to buy and I'll get it. And I was like, all right, sure. So I went and watched a few flight test videos, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. This is what I'm getting for myself. You should get him this. And so, we got into the RC planes together and flew together. And I kept watching the flight test, and I was like, man, they're like filming that from the air with this other like drone thing, but it's not like drones I'm used to seeing, you know? And so I started searching around for that. And then I came across the crash reel from the Argonne races, which if you've not ever seen that, go watch it. It's probably one of the best FPV videos. It's got that song Run. Oh man, it's so good. And like I saw that and I was just obsessed. I was like, oh wait, you can, because that's what I loved about the flight test builds with the foam planes, was it was something that was cheap. You could easily repair it, and they usually just survived all the crashes because they were super light. And I saw the Argonne races, and they were just crashing left and right. And in the comments, everybody's like, oh yeah, you just break a few props. I'm like, well, I can do that. And then I saw Sharpoo, and I always saw FPV as like, it's basically like skateboarding, but I don't have to get hurt myself. And I was in. And so I ordered a whole kit. And this is like late 2014, early 2015. Okay. And I ordered a whole kit, but it was Chinese New Year, and it took 3 months for Get FPV to have everything I had ordered in stock. Wow. It was obnoxious. And so for 3 months, every time I'd go to work at the airline, I'd show the guy I'm flying with, I'd show him like a FPV video, and I'd be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. He'd be like, what are you into? I'm into this. So how long have you been doing that? I haven't yet, but I'm going to do it.
Now, coming from you, now you're a real pilot, like not just an FPV pilot. But yeah, you flew for, who'd you fly for?
So I got hired by a company named, by the name of ASA, Atlantic Southeast Airlines. It turned into ExpressJet, but it's basically a Delta connection carrier. Like it was a Delta airline. The people bought tickets on Delta Airlines. It said Delta on the side of the plane, etc. Just the regional jets. Okay.
And when you made the transition from I remember watching a lot of your videos, and like you'd show up in like different cities, and you'd always have your airplane attire on, and this was on your vlog, right? And then one day you just quit the airline, and I remember thinking,
holy cow. Like, this dude is legit serious about making FPV his career. Like, walk me through that, like, decision process. How did you get from 2014, 2015 being like, I'm going to do this, to what, 2017, maybe 18, quitting?
Yeah, it was like right at the new 2018 New Year that I quit the other job. Um, well, it's complicated. I mean, I, like all the way from the I'm gonna do this to that. There's so many things in between. Basically, I started flying drones. Uh, to my surprise, I think just because I was going hard and bandos and stuff, I got some traction early on, and people were watching. And that was before the vlogging. That was before like anybody was getting in front of the camera themselves. So it wasn't even like people were watching just because who I was friends with. That definitely helped later. But like had traction and got sponsors and Rotor Riot and but like this is the piece that most people don't really know and kind of miss out on is if you know anything about the airline industry and ExpressJet, you would know that it's like owned by SkyWest. It's like complicated. It's owned by another company, but that company gave up their Delta contract. And so all of the Delta flying was going away. The Atlanta base was going away. They were shrinking our airline. It looked like they were going to probably just shut us down. And I had like 8 months before I was going to have to be commuting to like Denver or Chicago for work. And so the writing was on the wall and I needed a new job. And the question was, do I get another airline job or do I do something in FPV? And so I was like, if I take another airline job, I'm not going to just walk away from it. So this is the only chance I'm ever going to have to like take a shot at it. So I might as well.
Now, have you kept all of your certifications and everything up to date?
Yeah, I mean, it's so minimal to do. Like this year I went and did a biennial flight review. Every 2 years you got to go hop in a plane and do like an hour of flight instruction and an hour of ground. And it was funny because the guy that was working at the flight school used to also work at the same airline that I worked at. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like people don't usually go back to flight instructing, but he was like, I got tired of being on the road all the time. The schedule sucked. And I got a friend that owns this place and he's paying me well. I was like, huh, interesting. So it's like two dudes that had left the same airline to go do other stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. So, what I actually had you on here for one very specific reason. Which is I wanted to know how you felt about pulling third place in the best beard in FPV.
I feel honored.
I mean, you were legitimately
this scraggly thing somehow managed to get third. I don't know how I did that. Like I can barely grow a beard.
No, man, I think you legitimately have one of the best beards in FPV. It's not a long beard, but it's definitely better than my beard. So I mean, I have to give mad beard props to you for what you have on your face. I think it suits you very well. It's got a kind of an Ahab look to it.
Yeah, it's unruly for sure.
Now, it was funny because when you were flying for the airlines, I don't think you could have like did they have stipulations on what kind of facial hair you could have?
Yeah, pretty much all the U.S. airlines don't allow beards. They say it's because of the oxygen masks. Like for passengers, all you got to be able to do is breathe, right? But the pilots, if you can breathe, but there's smoke everywhere and you can't see anything because you got smoke in your eyes, it's going to be bad. So it's like a full-on face mask. And they say that that's to prevent smoke getting into the face mask. But like JetBlue allows beards now, and a ton of European and other foreign carriers allow beards. So I think that it's just, I don't know, BS or whatever.
Down with the man. So do you miss flying the big planes at all?
I don't miss it. No, everybody always asks, do I miss it? And I don't know. I like flying stuff. And to me, I don't know. I still go fly stuff, so it doesn't feel like something I miss. Now, that being said, I do really want to build my own plane. I've always wanted to do that ever since I was a kid, and
Wow.
so at some point, I'm gonna have to make the plunge and build a plane to go fly.
That's a little more high risk than building a drone.
Yeah, and not really, not really. I mean, you get a kit, do everything. It's not that sketch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what goes into like what? How big is a kit of a plane that you build?
Well, the one that I want to build is a Kit Fox. There's actually
Okay.
a YouTuber that flies a baller Kit Fox. It's Trent Palmer or Trenton
Okay.
Palmer. I forget exactly, something like that. But think of like a Piper Cub.
Yeah.
Um, that's basically what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um. So let's talk about the thing that's on your shirt right now, power loops.
Okay.
How tell me the story of how you got the title of the Power Loop King, because you can't have a conversation in FPV without somebody mentioning StingersSwarm if you're talking about power loops.
Well, it just kind of happened. Honestly, there were a ton of people doing power loops way before me.
Hmm.
Um, but to be fair, like before me, before I started doing them, it was always just a loop. Like you would go underneath a tree or through a gate, do a big loop, and then come back and go underneath it. There
Hmm.
was and all of that space of the loop was just bland. It was just yeah,
Hmm.
they wouldn't stay close to the object. Well, a couple people would, like Matty Stunts would stay pretty close to it,
Hmm.
but there was no extra stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, that part at the top where you're like floating over it, that's the same as when we do like the split S. And sometimes we do a roll there, or sometimes we do a flip there. And I had this aha moment. And I went and flew and did like a flip and a roll at the top of the power loop, and I was terrified to do it. I don't know why, but I was like, "Oh my god, this is so crazy!" But I hadn't seen it before, and like the internet freaked out about it, and I was like, "That's so cool!" And then I'm like, "Well, what else can you do in a power loop?" And I was like, "I bet I could hit a gap at the top." And that was really, really hard. I found there's a spot at the trailer park, an old classic Atlanta spot that's no
Hmm.
longer here, and it had like these two trees, then the canopy up here, but there's like this one field goal. It was basically about the size of a field goal,
Hmm.
but and you could go through the top. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure out how to do it on that. And I crashed so many times until I kind of figured out that you throw it too high, you modulate the throttle so that you don't go too high, and then that pulls you through the gap. And I was like, okay. And so I learned how to do that. And I had a couple other like viral power loops. Like one was at a bando in Chattanooga that still
Hmm.
showed, and then one, what else? I don't know. Just a few like with gaps at the top, and people started freaking out because nobody was doing that at the time, like hitting gaps while you're coming through this. But you're just flying a maneuver through confined spaces.
Hmm.
So, and I just kept pushing it harder and harder and like trying crazier and crazier stuff. Like the one that's really crazy, there's a school here in Atlanta, and there's like this walkway with an awning. And It's hard to explain. There's an awning and a upstairs walkway and then stairs on either side. So you can, have you seen that where you like dot? I don't know.
I
That one was
if
gnarly.
it's in your recent videos, I may have seen it.
It's pretty old. And I went
Okay.
back and recreated it, like a year or so ago, because I was like, is this easier now? And the answer is no, it's not a lot easier. It still took me like 10 tries to get it. Because I mean, people see it and they're like, oh yeah, I could do it. And then you get there and you realize like, oh my God, it's just like constant. Like you have to dive into a gap that's like that wide. And then you go underneath and come up a gap that's that wide and chuck it over the walkway and miss the handrails and like don't hit the awning that's over it. So you got like 4 feet of clearance and then hit that gap again. And
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. So doing crazy power loops. That's how I got it.
So how many? I mean, just if you had to estimate, how many frames have you exploded doing power loops?
I I I could probably count them up. They're just like scattered around here. I don't really ever throw them away. Everybody has walls of pristine quads.
Right.
I just have like a quad graveyard over here.
Yeah.
That's all sorts of busted things. I don't even know. Probably, I don't know, 50, 100, something crazy.
Wow. So I mean,
Nah, I'd say 100 is probably high. Somewhere in the range of 50 to 75, if I was to guess.
that's a lot of frames busted up. That's a lot of money.
Thankfully, it wasn't. Thank you, Daniel.
Now, is this so? Now, I think the big thing on your new frame is the forged carbon. I know I watched, and I can't remember if this was Bardwell's channel or your channel, where he was saying. I guess it was Bardwell's channel where you guys were at that spot in Atlanta recently, and he was talking about trying to break your frame. So, tell me. I mean, talk to me a little bit. Let's pimp out your product a bit. Like, what is so special about forged carbon?
It's so special because it is a pain in the butt. No, it's gorgeous. So, okay, here's the backstory for the forged carbon. Every time that I do a frame, the 2 times that I've done a frame, me and Daniel talk on the phone and we're like, well, here are the goals. Like we want to have X, Y, Z, all of this. And here's where the design problems are going to be. And then we kind of will sit and think about it for a little while. And I'll be like, oh, well, what if we did this? And he'll be like, well, that's cool, but I thought about that. And we'll kind of bounce the ideas back and forth. And then when we're at a stage where we think we've got the major problem solved, I'll fly out there and, we spend a couple of days in, the design software, sketching it up, stress testing it, looking for issues. And I don't know, about a couple of days. Yeah, it's usually like a whole week. And by the end of the week, I have a prototype. So, yeah, work on the design stuff and then cut stuff out, see how it looks, see how it fits together, be like, no, we got to change this, go back and forth. And so it was on a visit. It was when I was out there to do the Sting EV2, and we basically finished it. And we were having dinner. It was like the night before I was set to leave, and we were just chatting about, well, what can we do to like really take this up to 11? What can we do new? Like, is there any material? Like, because we used to have frames in oh my god, what was the that crap before carbon fiber? I don't know. There used to be like, I can picture it. I know what it looks like. I just can't think of the name. Doesn't matter. But G10, G10,
yeah, G10. Yep.
Yeah, and we were just like, is there anything new that we could do to like take another step up? And I was talking about like, you've probably seen commercials for them on Instagram, like the carbon fiber with gold or red fibers that looks cool, or Kevlar woven in. And he was like, well, have you heard of forged carbon? I was like, no. And he's like, well, it's this crazy, new material that Lamborghini and Callaway Golf developed together, and it's on all these Lambos. And we started looking at it, and I think it looks pretty. Some people say it looks like particle board, but I disagree. I think it's awesome. And we thought it was cool. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know how much it's going to. We agreed. We're like, I don't know how much it's going to cost. It may be something that's, costs us a couple grand a piece, and we just get one to hang on the wall and maybe do a limited release of 5 of them. But we're going to do it. And so we decided right then and there and started shopping around the idea to different manufacturers, found somebody that could do it. And we did a limited run of, 10, like what we normally would do with the carbon fiber one. And I had the forged carbon at Rampage, and it looked gorgeous. But the plan originally was to launch the carbon fiber one, keep testing the forged carbon, and then launch the forged, like maybe a month or 2 later. And it's my fault. I was like, Daniel, let's not do that, because people are going to be pissed. They're going to be like, I just bought this carbon fiber frame, and now this crazy awesome one just came out that's not that much more. And so they're going to be mad. Let's just launch the pre-order for both of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right. But we hadn't done enough stress testing yet. And, there are going to be people in your comments that'll be like, he should have known the spec sheet, the data sheet, blah, blah, blah. Well, we didn't. And It turns out that forged carbon is not good for FPV frames because you need the long strands to provide the strength. Otherwise, like it would be fine for like a top plate or a main plate because you've got so many different points that it's being supported. But with the arms, it's just, one stick, and it needs to have a different, tensile. I don't know. It's got to have a different type of strength, and and so we were breaking arms too much, and so we had to cancel all the pre-orders and be like, we're going to sort this out. And we thought maybe we could work on something and get it better, but it turns out went through several suppliers. I've got scattered around here different versions of the forged carbon, and none of them were any good. And we finally, a friend of Daniel's actually owns a company that makes carbon fiber bicycle frames. And he's like, I think I can make this work with a kind of a unique process of laying up carbon, some high-end carbon fiber, and then a fascia layer of forged on it. And so we started getting samples from him, and it took a while to kind of work out the perfect mix, because if you think about it, what forged carbon really is it's carbon chunk, and you have chunks of carbon that aren't strands. And if you are making an FPV frame and that fascia layer, it really is chunks of carbon. If the chunks are too big and then you cut an arm out of it, it just looks like one piece of matte carbon. It doesn't look it doesn't have that cool effect. So we went through a bunch of different tests with different sizes of chunks, and I think that there were some different curing processes because some of them the resin wasn't well spread and stuff. But long story short is it took about a year from the idea and the first prototypes to actually having something that is functional. And now we have something that's functional. It is carbon fiber, but it is a forged carbon fascia layer to look awesome, like a Lamborghini. And the strength is actually is better than the carbon fiber because we're using a Toray T700S pre-preg that's a very high, most carbon fiber frames that everybody's getting is just generic 3K, 4K carbon fiber, but this is a high-end, pre-preg from a very reputable manufacturer doing a custom layup, and technically it's actually molded carbon fiber because of the process that they're having to do to get the fascia layer on there and cured. So it's been a big pain in the butt, but it's beautiful, and I should have more in my hand soon.
Very cool.
I'm waiting like everybody else. I only got 2 of them, and
so so I guess and I guess that means it hasn't officially launched yet. It's still in pre-order, which is frustrating me because I thought we were going to have them out by late August, and here it is almost mid-September. Yeah. I was just texting Daniel today, and he's like, apparently they're saying that it's going to ship this week to him. So we had a small order that did go out. He got 20 frames in and sent them to the first 20 pre-orders, but there's the bulk of the pre-orders still haven't shipped. Okay. Well, I mean, with his, I can see you probably need the extra strength. With as much crazy power looping as you do.
As much crazy crashing as I do.
Yeah. So
watching Kevin fly often leads me to go, wow, holy crap, that was awesome. And it is truly a joy not only to see him fly, but also to just hear his laugh and know that good sense of humor is part of FPV. I'd like to take a moment to thank my patrons. My patrons can get a audio-only podcast version of all of these episodes every time I release a new episode. The link is in the description. Go check it out if you're interested. And I'd also like to talk about Give Back October. Give Back October is my chance to put the spotlight away from the folks that always have the spotlight and onto the folks that don't get the spotlight very often. Case in point, we'll be talking to Mike Chin. He does support for TBS and Tiny Whoop and just a ton of other people. And he's dedicated and works almost nonstop. but you're going to get to hear from him and maybe Aaron Paul too in the same interview. I think it should be fun. But definitely look out for Give Back October. I hope that you guys will enjoy it, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.